Living joyfully alone. The Buddhist perspective on friendship in old age. Imagine sitting by a quiet river, the gentle ripples reflecting the golden hues of the setting sun. There is no rush, no noise, just the steady rhythm of your breath and the tranquility of the moment. Society often tells us that solitude is something to be feared, a sign of isolation or abandonment. But what if solitude is not a void, but a gateway? What if, instead of loneliness, it offers something deeper, freedom, peace, and self-discovery? From a Buddhist perspective, attachment to external validation is one of the greatest sources of suffering. We spend much of our lives seeking approval, yearning for connection, and fearing separation. But true contentment does not arise from the number of people around us. It emerges from the relationship we cultivate with ourselves. Old age is not a chapter of social depletion. It is a season of personal liberation, a sacred transition where the mind and heart are finally free to rest in their natural state. This journey is not about rejecting companionship, but about embracing solitude as a profound teacher. Let us explore why growing older is not about loss, but about rediscovering the deepest essence of who we truly are. 1. Understanding the shift in priorities. As the years pass, our values naturally shift. What once seemed urgent, the need for companionship, social status, and constant interaction, begins to fade. In youth, we seek friendships to define ourselves, to feel a sense of belonging. But Buddhism teaches that the self is impermanent. The identities we cling to are merely constructs of the ego. At some point, the chase for belonging gives way to a different kind of longing, the longing for peace. In younger years, friendships often serve as a mirror, reflecting back to us an image of who we think we are. We collect relationships like trophies, believing that the more we have, the more complete we become. But as we age, something profound happens. We begin to question whether all this external noise is necessary at all. We realize that fulfillment doesn't come from how many people surround us, but from how deeply we can sit in stillness with ourselves. The urgency to constantly engage, to reach out, to be seen, it softens. In its place, a quiet contentment begins to emerge. No longer are we caught up in the need to prove ourselves, to maintain appearances, or to fill every silence with conversation. Instead, we savor solitude. The crisp morning air, the slow unfolding of a flower, the weight of a well-worn book in our hands. These become the simple joys that nourish us. This is not loneliness, this is liberation. Buddhism teaches that suffering comes from craving, from clinging to things that are transient. Relationships, like all things, are impermanent. They change, they fade, they transform. When we stop grasping for connection simply for the sake of having it, we allow ourselves to experience relationships more freely, without expectation or attachment. This shift in priorities doesn't mean we no longer care for others. It means we engage with people in a way that is authentic, rather than obligatory. We become selective, not out of selfishness, but out of wisdom. We realize that energy is finite, and rather than scattering it across meaningless engagements, we choose to invest it where it truly matters. Some might view this as isolation, but in truth, it is a deepening of self-awareness, of understanding, of presence. When we are alone, we are not empty. We are full of the richness of our own company. And in this state of being, we discover something beautiful. We no longer need the world to validate us. We are already whole. 2. The freedom of self-reliance. One of the greatest lessons of Buddhist philosophy is self-reliance. The Buddha himself left behind his palace, his family, and his wealth to embark on a solitary journey toward enlightenment. He understood that attachment breeds suffering. As we grow older, we realize that much of life has been spent trying to please others, fitting into social molds, maintaining friendships out of obligation. But now, old age grants us the permission to shed these expectations. We no longer need to depend on external relationships for validation. Instead, we turn inward and cultivate our own sense of wholeness. At first, the idea of self-reliance might feel unsettling. After all, we have spent decades surrounded by people engaging in conversations, building relationships, and navigating social expectations. The notion of stepping back from this can feel like an unnatural shift. But with time, a realization dawns. Self-reliance is not about severing ties or rejecting companionship. It is about freedom. The freedom to engage when we choose, rather than out of obligation. The freedom to prioritize inner peace over external approval. The freedom to simply be, without the constant pull of social validation. Think about the moments in your life when you felt most at ease. Perhaps it was a quiet morning with nothing but the sound of birds outside your window, or an afternoon spent lost in thought as you watched the waves roll in. Those moments were peaceful, not because of who was with you, but because of the space they provided for stillness. That stillness, that ability to be present without distraction, is the heart of self-reliance. In the earlier years of life, we often seek fulfillment outside ourselves. We chase recognition, relationships, and the sense of belonging that comes with them. But as the years pass, we begin to see that true fulfillment isn't something we have to search for. It's already within us. There is a deep, abiding satisfaction in knowing that we are enough, just as we are, without needing the world to affirm it for us. The beauty of self-reliance is that it allows us to interact with others in a more authentic way. Instead of engaging in friendships out of necessity, we engage because we genuinely enjoy the presence of others. There is no desperation, no sense of incompleteness that drives us to maintain connections that no longer serve us. We give freely, without expecting anything in return, because we are whole within ourselves. This shift in perspective can be transformative. Rather than fearing solitude, we learn to embrace it. Rather than seeing ourselves as alone, we see ourselves as independent. And in that independence, we find strength, we find peace, we find a life that is no longer dictated by external expectations, but by the quiet, unwavering voice within us that knows exactly what we need. Self-reliance in later years is not about projection, but about liberation. It's about realizing that everything we sought outside of ourselves, love, peace, understanding, was always within us. 3. Quality over quantity. The art of meaningful connection. Buddhism teaches that the nature of relationships is impermanence. Friends will come and go, some will fade with time, and others will transform into mere memories. Instead of mourning these losses, we should celebrate them for what they were, precious moments in our journey. As we age, we come to understand a fundamental truth. It's not the number of people in our lives that matters, but the depth of the connections we share. A single profound conversation can hold more meaning than a lifetime of surface-level interactions. In Zen teachings, there's a saying, "When drinking tea, drink tea." This means whatever we do, we should do it with full presence. The same applies to relationships. Rather than spreading ourselves thin, we should pour our attention into those who genuinely nourish our souls. But what does this look like in practice? Imagine sitting with an old friend over a simple meal. There's no need for grand gestures, no pressure to impress, just a shared moment of presence. In that moment, you realize that connection isn't about extravagance or frequency. It's about authenticity. It's about being seen, truly seen, by another soul. Contrast this with a room full of acquaintances where conversations skim the surface, never touching the core of who we are. In our youth, We may have sought validation in numbers, more friends, more gatherings, more noise, but as the years pass, we recognize that true fulfillment lies not in collecting relationships, but in cultivating them. Aging gifts us with the wisdom to choose our interactions intentionally. We no longer feel the need to entertain every invitation or maintain relationships that no longer bring joy. This isn't selfishness, it's discernment. And in practicing this discernment, we free ourselves to invest in the connections that truly matter. This shift in perspective also allows us to redefine companionship. We begin to see connection in the simplest of forms: a smile exchanged with a stranger, the silent understanding between long-time friends, the comfort of nature's embrace. Connection is everywhere, if only we choose to be present for it. Moreover, by embracing quality over quantity, we learn the art of deep listening. In Buddhist tradition, listening is considered an act of love. When we listen without the need to respond, without planning what we'll say next, we honor the presence of the other person. This practice transforms even the briefest of encounters into something meaningful. So, as we move through life, let us remember, relationships, like everything else, are fleeting. But the depth of our interactions, the sincerity of our presence, and the love we extend, that is what lingers, that is what gives life its richness. And in the end, it's not how many hands we've shaken, but how many hearts we've truly touched. 4. The beauty of solitude and reflection. Solitude is not a void, it is a sanctuary. In Buddhist tradition, monks retreat into silent meditation, not because they despise the world, but because they seek to understand it more deeply. The same principle applies to old age. Rather than filling every moment with idle chatter, we can embrace silence as a space for reflection. When we sit in solitude, we finally have time to process our lives, to accept our past, and to let go of regrets. In this stillness, we discover a profound truth. We are complete, even when alone. There is something deeply sacred about being alone with one's thoughts, about allowing oneself the space to truly listen. In the constant noise of life, moments of silence are rare and often overlooked. But within that silence lies the opportunity for growth. When we step away from distractions, we can reflect on the choices we've made, the lessons we've learned, and the person we've become. Too often, people equate solitude with loneliness, but this is a misconception. Loneliness is the absence of connection, while solitude is the presence of the self. When we learn to befriend ourselves, solitude becomes a gift rather than a burden. It grants us the clarity to see life for what it is, a fleeting yet beautiful journey, where each moment is an opportunity to deepen our understanding. Many spiritual seekers throughout history have found their greatest insights in solitude. The Buddha himself meditated in isolation beneath the Bodhi tree before attaining enlightenment. Great poets, philosophers, and sages have all turned inward to find truth. There is wisdom in stillness, in stepping back from the world long enough to see it clearly. Moreover, solitude fosters creativity and introspection. When we are alone, we can engage in activities that bring us joy: writing, painting, gardening, or simply sitting in quiet contemplation. These solitary pursuits enrich our souls and remind us that fulfillment does not require the presence of others. Of course, embracing solitude does not mean shutting the world out completely. Rather, it is about finding balance. It is about knowing when to seek connection and when to retreat into the self. It is about allowing stillness to be a part of our daily lives, not as an escape, but as a practice of self-awareness. In the end, solitude is not something to be feared, but something to be cherished. It is a path to self-discovery, a doorway to inner peace. And when we learn to sit comfortably with ourselves, we realize that we are never truly alone. We are always in the presence of our own soul. 5. The importance of family and community. As friendships naturally ebb and flow with time, the significance of family and community often grows stronger. This isn't about dependency, but about embracing the role of wisdom keepers, mentors, and guiding lights for future generations. Buddhism emphasizes interdependence, the understanding that we are all connected in an intricate web of cause and effect. While solitude is valuable, so too is the ability to give selflessly. As we age, we are presented with a unique opportunity to pass down wisdom, to serve as beacons of experience, and to leave behind something greater than ourselves. Family, whether biological or chosen, provides a space where unconditional love and deep-rooted bonds flourish. A simple conversation with a grandchild, sharing stories of perseverance, or gently guiding them through life's uncertainties, these are invaluable gifts that carry immeasurable weight. It is in these moments that we see the continuity of our existence, a ripple of impact that extends far beyond our own years. Community too plays a vital role in sustaining a sense of belonging. Whether it's a familiar face at the local market, a neighbor who offers a kind smile, or a spiritual group that gathers to meditate together, these connections offer warmth and purpose. Unlike friendships forged in youth, which often revolved around shared activities or ambitions, connections in later years are defined by their authenticity and depth. Moreover, the act of giving, whether through wisdom, presence, or simply offering an ear, becomes a source of fulfillment. In Buddhism, the practice of dana, generosity, is one of the most revered virtues. It is said that giving without expectation purifies the heart, dissolves the ego, and fosters a boundless sense of peace. Perhaps the most profound lesson is that true connection isn't about quantity or obligation. It's about presence. Whether it's a heartfelt conversation with a loved one, an afternoon spent teaching a skill to the younger generation, or simply offering kindness to a stranger, these moments remind us of our interconnectedness. In the end, family and community aren't just about relationships, they are about the imprint we leave on the world. Through the wisdom we share, the love we extend, and the moments we cherish, we contribute to a legacy that lives on long after we are gone. 6. Letting go of social expectations. The world may tell you that you need more friends, that social isolation is something to fear, but Buddhism teaches us that suffering arises when we cling to societal expectations. Old age is an opportunity to step away from the noise of the world and live on your own terms. For much of our lives, we are shaped by external pressures. What we should achieve, how we should behave, and even who we should surround ourselves with. We chase recognition, seeking validation in numbers. But at some point the realization dawns, none of it truly defines us. Letting go of social expectations means embracing the freedom to live authentically. There is no obligation to maintain friendships that drain you. There is no requirement to fit into outdated molds of what a social life should look like. True peace is found not in appeasing others, but in honoring yourself. This shift is not about withdrawing from the world, but about engaging with it on your own terms. Perhaps it means choosing meaningful solitude over forced interactions. Maybe it's about setting boundaries, prioritizing quality over quantity. It could even be as simple as letting go of the guilt that comes with saying no to social norms that no longer serve you. Buddhism reminds us that suffering arises from attachment. When we attach our self-worth to how socially active we are, we place our happiness in external hands. But when we release these expectations, we open the door to a new kind of contentment, one rooted in presence, self-acceptance, and inner stillness. At the end of the day, the only true measure of a life well lived is whether you have found peace within yourself. Not by the number of people around you, not by how many invitations you accept, but by the tranquility that comes from living in alignment with your deepest truth. Letting go is not about loneliness, it is about freedom. And in that freedom, we find our most authentic selves. 7. Practical considerations, redefining connection. Aging brings changes in physical health, mobility, and energy levels. But these are not limitations. They are invitations to redefine how we experience connection. We often think of connection as something grand, gatherings, celebrations, or long conversations. But in reality, connection exists in the smallest of gestures. A warm smile exchanged with a stranger, the laughter of a child echoing through a quiet afternoon, the simple pleasure of a handwritten letter. These fleeting moments often hold more weight than an entire evening of forced conversation. Modern technology, too, offers opportunities to stay connected without exhausting ourselves. A video call with a loved one, a heartfelt message, or even a shared silence over the phone. These small yet intentional acts of connection remind us that we are not alone. Rather than overwhelming ourselves with social obligations, we can choose interactions that are nourishing and reciprocal. Buddhism teaches us to embrace change, to adapt without resistance. If our bodies slow down, we don't fight against it. We move with it. If our ability to travel diminishes, we seek fulfillment in the present moment, in the space we already inhabit. True connection does not require movement. It requires presence. So instead of lamenting what we can no longer do, we can ask, how can I experience connection in a way that aligns with my current reality? Perhaps it's deepening the relationships we already have, rather than seeking new ones. Maybe it's fostering a connection with nature, feeling the rhythm of life in every breath of wind, every rustling leaf. By redefining what connection means to us, we release the pressure to conform to outdated expectations. We embrace the quiet, the simplicity, the depth of a life well lived. And in doing so, we discover that connection isn't about how many people surround us. It's about how deeply we engage with the life before us. 8. A legacy of wisdom. Buddhism teaches that the greatest gift we can leave behind is wisdom. Not wealth, not social status, but the lessons we impart through our presence and understanding. Old age is not about accumulating more. It is about distilling life down to its essence. Through storytelling, we pass down experiences, offering guidance wrapped in personal history. Through acts of kindness, we teach others the true nature of compassion. By embodying peace, we become living examples of tranquility, reminding those around us that contentment is not found in material gain, but in the clarity of a mind unburdened. Even in solitude, our impact ripples beyond us. A life lived with wisdom is a life that continues to give long after we are gone. Each seed of insight we plant, each word of encouragement we share, becomes part of a much greater whole, a collective knowledge that endures in the hearts of those who remain. This is how we leave a legacy, not in stone or wealth, but in the transformation of lives we've touched. 9. Embracing the gift of your own company. At the heart of Buddhism is the understanding that suffering arises from craving, from longing for what we do not have, from resisting the present moment as it is. But when we learn to sit with ourselves, to fully embrace our own presence, we unlock a joy that is unshakable. It is the kind of joy that does not rely on external circumstances, the kind that emerges from within, like a quiet, radiant light. Old age is not a time of loss. It is a time of profound gain. It is a return to the self, an opportunity to live fully and authentically, unburdened by the expectations of others. We spend so much of our lives shaping ourselves to fit into society's mold, playing roles, maintaining relationships out of obligation, striving to be someone others expect us to be. But in solitude, those masks fall away. And what remains is the raw, unfiltered truth of who we are. There is a sacred beauty in this process. The silence that once felt daunting becomes a sanctuary. The stillness that once seemed empty transforms into a space of infinite depth. We begin to listen, to truly listen, to the voice within, the quiet wisdom that has been speaking to us all along. In solitude, we find clarity. We recognize that happiness was never something outside of us. It was always here, waiting for us to notice it. Some may fear that embracing solitude means giving up on human connection. But this could not be further from the truth. When we are at peace within ourselves, we engage with others from a place of authenticity rather than need. Relationships become lighter, freer, more meaningful, no longer weighed down by expectations or dependencies. We learn to appreciate people for who they are, rather than for what they can give us. We give love, not because we lack it, but because we are overflowing with it. And then, a great realization dawns. We were never truly alone to begin with. The universe is not separate from us. It moves through us, breathes with us. The trees, the wind, the sun. Everything is alive, connected, intertwined. Solitude, in its truest sense, is not isolation. It is union with the vast and boundless nature of existence. This is the gift of our own company. It is not something to endure, but something to cherish. It is an invitation to step into the vastness of our own being, to see ourselves with clarity, to hold our own hand and say, I am enough. So as we walk this path of aging, let us not mourn what has passed or cling to what is fleeting. Let us instead embrace the present, the fullness of our own presence. Let us sit in the quiet, not with fear, but with reverence. For in that stillness, in that sacred solitude, we do not lose ourselves, we finally find ourselves, and in that discovery, we are free.